Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Adventuring for Mere Mortals. I'm Kyle, here with co-host Trevor, and today we're going to be talking about cycling, and our special guest is Stan Fowler. Hi, Stan.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Trev, you want to do the intro since you know Stan? Well,
yeah, sure.
You actually know Stan.
Yeah. So Stan and I went to college at Rolla together. Kyle was there, but I don't think Stan and Kyle ever really ran into each other. But yes, Stan was in the same fraternity as me. He was a few years behind me. Was it 2-3 years behind me? Something like that. Somewhere around there. But yeah, so hung out in college a lot. And recently, as I've gotten more into cycling, Stan has been like my go-to guy to talk about, like, well, I'm thinking about buying this bike. Do I want this bike? Is this type of equipment worth it? Type of stuff. So Stan's like my go-to cycling guy. So I just bug him constantly on Instagram. And then every time he gets a new bike, I get real excited and I tell him his bike looks pretty dope. So, but yeah, Stan, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So as Trevor said, I got into bikes a little bit ago. Well, now I forget about COVID, but it's been a while. And I'm from St. Louis, born and raised, went to school in Rolla. And then recently, the last 6 months, I moved out to Boulder, Colorado, which is the cycling mecca. And that kind of changed my whole lifestyle. Like, I was already getting deep into cycling, but coming out here, it's a whole new world. Everybody out here is like a past state champ or something like that from their state. So wow. It's really cool to cycle with some people that, come from all over the place. But yeah, so it's a little bit about me. I'm an engineer. I don't know. Is that?
Yeah, that's great. That's a good enough start. But yeah, it sounds like you're leveling up going out to Boulder.
Well, sort of. It's like a pivot because, the whole new rankings changed. It's like I was getting good in St. Louis, and then you come out here, you're like, oh, yeah, back down the pecking order. I like this.
It sets new goals.
Yeah, for sure.
Strive for being better.
Yeah, the thing about Colorado is you can always find someone that's better at whatever it is than you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's like rock climbing, even hiking. Like, oh yeah, you hike? Yeah, well, I speed run down trails. It's like, okay, great.
Oh man, but yeah, Kyle, you've been busy. We haven't talked in like a month since we recorded last time. I've barely been able to get a hold of you. So what have you been up to, man?
Lots of work, which isn't fun. We've had some pretty actually crazy weather here lately. Spring showed up all at once. We go from days in the 30s and 40s to suddenly in the 60s and 70s, everything bloomed. Allergies took over. So that was kind of miserable. But in terms of like outdoor stuff, just doing a lot of local trails. I still haven't decided if I'm going to do that half marathon. Definitely not going to run it. That's a given. But there is a high probability that I will just try to power hike it.
Nice.
So that's kind of why I shifted gears to focus on that. And then on topic, to take advantage of those warm days and get a little lung burn and actually being able to sustain it for a while, I took the bike out several times, put in some longer rides, and then serendipitously there was an advanced bike tuning and repair class here at one of the local shops, and it was completely free. That was what was amazing. So it was for, I think they could have 5 people because that's the number of stands that they had, and you brought your bike in and you tuned it. So it's in peak performance. And I finally feel as though I have entered into that next level, as Stan said, because I can now remove my tubeless tire and put it back on without the use of tire levers.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a step. That's a step for sure.
So yeah, that's my new party trick. Is watch this.
Kind of
Way
will
ahead
get
of
you to the
me.
point where you can start cycling year round. That's what we
Ooh.
do. It's like, until it hits 32 degrees, you can still ride your bike.
Yeah. Well,
Pass.
do you have goat heads there?
Goat heads.
Yeah.
What's a goat head?
So they're these little demonic things, and I discovered them first in New Mexico. But they are little. They look like little seeds, but they're thorny.
Oh, you're talking about hitchhikers?
Maybe that's
But
what they're
like,
called.
I think from the Midwest we call. Trev, do you know about hitchhikers? But they're like a little. They shape like rocks, and they like put a thorn in it and flatten your tire, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've heard of those. Yeah, it's probably one of those things where every different area has a different name for the same thing or something very, very similar. But
Yeah. So
I'm assuming they put holes in bike tires.
and they're the slow leaks, and it's one of those that it dries out your tire sealant pretty quickly. So I will be changing that monthly now. But yeah, it feels good to be back on the bike. But what about you, Trev? What have you been up to? I know that you said that your PT is going well.
Yeah, my PT's going pretty well. Last week I was able to squat like 210, 215 pounds. I was pretty excited. My PT guy was excited too. He just kept throwing more weight on when I could do the squats. So yeah, I think I did. I was able to do like 6 at like 210, 215. So just over my body weight. So that's good. And yeah, I still not clear to run, which is annoying. So now I just walk a maddening amount of laps around my neighborhood right now. And yeah, then PT, I've been leading a very lonely lifestyle because my wife and my kids are all up north, up in Bloomington, and I'm sitting here until we can get rid of this house a little bit. So I'm actually leaving Friday. But yeah, we had a buyer. We were like ready to close, and then like earlier this week, they asked for their second extension on closing because the IRS didn't give them some form that they needed. I don't know all the details, but we just pulled the plug on that. But luckily, we put it back on the market, and within 24 hours, we had a cash offer. So we've accepted that one. Now we have an inspection on Friday. So I'm here for the inspection. Then I go north and I can see my family again. So we just been video chatting and stuff like that. But other than that, yeah, just a lot of work. And I actually did an outdoor thing. So a couple weekends ago, so as I've mentioned previous, I'm a big national park site nerd. I went to the last 2 national park sites in Louisiana that I hadn't been to before. So it was a long day. I think it was like 9 or 10 hours of driving to get to both of them because they were like 4 hours to one, then 5 hours to the next one, and then like 3 hours driving. Oh no, it's more like 12 hours driving, 2 or 3 hours driving home. But I went to Cane River Creole National Historic Site, and that's it's like a preserved plantation. So actually, there's a couple plantations that are along this Cane River in like central Louisiana, but it's like a preserved plantation where they had all the outbuildings, like the slave quarters and like the rich bougie people's house to kind of tell the story. And it just kind of gave me weird vibes because like the big house had been like updated to like the 1960s. And the rest of the house, it was real weird. We didn't spend enough time there, but it was like another little check off my list. But the one I really liked it's called Poverty Point National Historic Site. So it's like Native American mounds. So I feel like it's a very similar age to the ones outside of St. Louis, the Coquia Mounds. But that one was really cool. And me and a buddy from work, we got there like a half an hour after it closed. So we might have walked on some trails that we weren't supposed to, but we didn't. All we did was read like the signage and got to walk around and kind of see about the age and the history of it. And it was really interesting. I like that kind of thing. But yeah, that's about all I've been up to. Excited to not be in a lonely, echoey house by myself. Well, what about you, Stan? What have you been up to, man?
Actually, I live in Boulder now, but I just came back from St. Louis to go to a friend's baby shower, which was actually really nice. It's the first time I went back home since Christmas, New Year's time, so it was nice to catch up with family, friends. Have a couple beers and just kind of catch up. It was nice to see them. Like you guys, we all have families, and it's nice to see everybody
Mhm.
happy and just reconnecting. After 2 years of
Mhm.
kind of the staying away from everybody, it's kind of
Yeah.
getting used to being back around people and having conversations and catching up. So it's been really nice. And then, here in Colorado, we're having to look for a place to stay because our lease is up soon. And as you guys know in the news, everything's getting more expensive. So,
Mhm.
Trevor, kind of the opposite of you, the people that own our condo want to sell. So,
Oh,
and take
yeah, they want to
advantage
make
of,
that money. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So the pressure's on and we have some time, but it's still, a little worrisome. But uh, beyond that, uh, I'm also engaged. So starting the wedding planning, all these things, take money. And
Mm-hmm.
the
Been
reason
there.
I'm here is for bikes. So that kind of gets me into like, well, no more bikes for a while. I got to start
Yeah.
selling a bike to get a new bike. But, it's exciting. But at the same time, priorities got to be in check. So I'm sure we'll talk about, prioritization of time and money into cycling. But beyond that, I'm just loving it out here in Boulder. I'm a weekend warrior, which if you're into cycling, those guys. Sometimes they're older, retired, or young professionals where during the week is not the best time to work because when you
Mhm.
get home, you kind of want to eat, hang out with your pup or your, significant other. And so that kind of drives me into hitting, riding really hard during the weekends. So, which
Nice.
here is the best place to do it. And I was happy, my fiance got a position to work out here. I said, oh, Boulder, yes, sign me up. Let's go right now. I'll pack my bags. So it was nice to come out here and be surrounded by such a nice area to cycle in. So it's a little bit about me, what I've been up to. Just riding my bike.
Nice. And yeah, like I've been to Boulder a number of times. It's just a really cool area. And that's why everybody wants to move there. And that's why there's so many people.
Yeah.
But
And I will say, so cycling is nice out here, but and started asking Trev about stuff. Started getting into climbing. I'm doing hiking now, and it's just like you got to pick your hobbies, man, because it can.
yeah.
Cycling is an expensive one, but all the other ones are
Oh,
just as expensive.
yeah.
Spending your time, which is the most expensive piece,
Hmm.
is deciding what you want to do this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, Boulder's one where you're close enough. You can have skiing, hiking, rock climbing, bike, and it varies on
Anything.
the season.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Whitewater rafting, if you want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Like anything. So.
Okay, let's talk about some cycling. Let's get into this. So, how'd you get into cycling, Stan?
Oh man, this is a good story. So I don't know if I've told you this, Trev, but
I don't think so.
when this is 2019, so not that long ago, like to start really cycling, I had been doing kickball, and you know what kickball means. That's like going to a park, drinking booze all day, and like
Yeah.
kicking a ball, hurting yourself. And I kind of got tired of that. It wasn't really productive, And I was like, I need to figure something else out. And there was a local shop that was opening up. I was like, oh, they have coffee. I like coffee. I'll go there, hang out, talk to the guys, and kind of, see what it's all about. I went online and I bought like a $400 bike. And it was a nice bike, but I did that and that got me kind of hooked. Like something about riding a bike with people and having conversations. Although early, my conversations were very, very short because I was trying to
Out
keep
of
up.
breath.
Yeah. But that really got me into it in 2019. And I cycled, a lot. But then COVID came around, which is, sorry, I keep bringing it up, but it's a hot topic and
No,
it's still
yeah.
here. And I got really kind of pulled into this group of guys where we started riding fixed gear bikes. If you don't know what fixed gear bikes, that's no brakes, you got one gear, one crank arm, and you just go as fast as you can pedal, but also to stop, you have to use your legs to stop. So got really involved with those guys, and we spent just about a year and a half cycling, getting beers, getting pizza. So I didn't get rid of the beers, but at least I was doing something outside.
You're offsetting it, right?
Exactly. So I got really. Sorry, what was that, Kyle?
Oh, I was gonna say with the fixed gear, you also aren't allowed to coast.
No, there's no coasting. No.
Oh man.
So yeah, if you're moving, you're moving. You can get bucked off your bike if you try to just stop your legs, and that's a really valuable lesson to learn early on. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing. And then after that, I got kind of stronger in my cycling, and I bought a real bike. Those are air quotes. I spent some good money on a Tarmac SL6, which that's one I think, Trevor, when you saw it, you're like, okay, maybe I should get a bike. No.
Yeah. Well, like I'm very similar to you. I had like my $400. It was just like a city bike that I got just to like pull my kids around in a trailer and stuff. And then when COVID happened, I started biking around my neighborhood more. And after a while, I was like, okay, I've kind of maxed this bike out. I think I need to get something better. And that's when I started bugging Stan all the time.
Yep. And I remember seeing you on Strava. I was like, oh man, yeah, you get it. Like, get those miles in, get like whatever it takes. Like, because once you're into it, it's like a drug, so to speak. Like, you just can't, you're like looking for the next day where it's a good, not windy day to get outside and get on your bike. So.
Yeah. And for me, I actually started doing it as like cross training for running, because I was running so much. I was getting like repetitive use injuries in my shins and stuff. I was like, okay, I can't just run every day. So I need something to offset it, but I still wanted to be like working on my fitness and stuff. And biking was great for that, even though it was still doing, and Stan's seen this on Strava, just maddening numbers of 1 mile laps around my neighborhood.
You were just doing a one person criterion. That's all.
Yep. That's pretty much what it was. It was a mile. It was like a little velodrome around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were talking about bikes. So how many bikes do you own? I don't think I actually know the answer to this question.
So actually, because of the move, I had to cut down. At one point, I think I had 6 bikes, and they weren't all crazy. Actually, it was 6 bikes, but I would, and don't tell my fiance this, I hope she doesn't listen, but I would like loan a bike out, like, hey, keep this and you can use it. Don't mention it. Like, just like keep this, and whenever you're done with it, just let me know. So like, internally I could start lining somebody else up to use that bike.
Yeah, because she comes in the garage, you're like, 1, 2, 3. Hey, Stan.
And also what I did is I nobody can see this, but I bought all black bikes. And if you see my Instagram or if you see me ride, a lot of people get confused because all my bikes are black. They're black with tan wall tires. So it works for a while, So
smart.
Yes.
Smart.
Right now, though, I only have 4 because of the move and just limited space. But
yeah,
as any cyclist will tell you, N+1, and we're engineers, you know what that is.
Yeah.
But you're always looking to add one. Like, there's a sweet spot where you can find a spot for another bike.
Yeah, and like I've seen, there's like bikes are super customizable, and you have like different types of riding you want to do. It's like, well, I want to do this type of riding, so the bikes I have just don't really work for that. I need to get this one so I can do that kind of riding. I mean,
even at this stage, I could be like, I need a commuter bike.
Yeah.
I can't take my my favorite bike on like a trip to Whole Foods. Like, I need something with a basket.
So that's the boat I'm in right now. I've got a gravel bike, and I bought the gravel bike because I was like, oh, this is a good all-around bike. It doesn't do anything exceptional, but it does a lot of things well.
That's why I bought my gravel bike. Exactly.
And so, yeah, I had a mountain bike, a cheaper one that is out of commission now. And so, yeah, I've been looking at, do I get another like mountain bike, maybe full suspension? I don't know, or now that everyone's, mostly returning to the workplace, like, do I get a commuter bike? Do I get something that's comfy and can go? Yeah, it's dangerous. And I think you've cracked the code there with significant others and maintaining hobbies of you just loan it out and out of sight, out of mind.
It's pretty brilliant.
So I think that might be a big takeaway from from today's episode.
It stops a lot of the questions. You got to be, set up a game plan. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, it takes some time. You gotta, and it takes time for you to think about, well, customization. Like, what do I want to get? Can I get it now? Parts shortage, all that stuff. So, yeah, you got to weigh it a little bit, but you'll get there. Kyle,
So-
I didn't know, Kyle, how long have you been riding? I didn't know, I listen a lot about, hiking and exploring. I didn't know that you were that much into cycling.
Oh, yeah. So that's a tricky question. So I started mountain biking seriously back in 2008 whenever I moved to New Mexico, and we had a little group that would go out and do rides. So that was my introduction into riding. And then around the same time I got into triathlons and multi-event races, and so there's usually a biking component, and I was borrowing people's bikes.
You're my best friend. There we go. Here, take this.
Yeah. I was borrowing people's bikes, and then it just sort of stuck around, and I turned it into a commuting type thing. So for the longest time, that's how I got back and forth to work, was either walking or riding a bike. And then, I finally, as Trev puts it, leveled up. When was that? Probably about 3 years ago. And I decided I was going to be ambitious, and I was like, well, I'm going to try bike packing.
Ooh.
And so I still haven't gone bike packing. I think that's Trev and I have talked about this.
We've talked about it. And now we both have the bikes to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you set the goal, now you just got to get there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, you were talking about commuting, and I think one of the big things and I think this community of Boulder is commuting, like not just to work. Like I do work in Denver, so it's not a bike commute, but weekends, my car gets parked and I use my bike.
That's awesome.
If I'm going to eat, going to meet some friends, takes the same amount of time. The city isn't that big, and I know a lot of people aren't fortunate to have that, but it's just one more way. If tree hugger, your environmentalist, whatever you are, if you just want to go out for fun and get some exercise in, like you can get a bike. Like you don't have to have the top of the top. You can find whatever on Craigslist and get it around. So,
Craigslist or even like Walmart or stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to be that base model bike, but hey, it gets you where you're going.
A little heavier, but you're fine.
Yeah. Or played against sports. I've been played against sports for a bike to not take around. I was the same way in Atlanta. It was faster for me to get around on a bike or on foot than it was to drive, back and forth. So that was cool. And like around here, we have the Green Belt, and like in Atlanta, they had the Belt Line, which is the change from rails to trails around your area. I forget what they call it there, but it's a similar thing. It's the rails to trails network. And you can go from almost, I think, Colorado Springs up to Boulder and beyond, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, along 36, it's like this. There's a couple parts where you have to get like on a road maybe or on a sidewalk, but you can get anywhere. I love it. Like you don't really need a car. Yes, it's nice to have. It snows here, so it's nice, but you can still get around, and it's perfect. Well,
see, what you need now is a fat tire bike so that you can continue through the winter.
It's funny you say fat tire. I did Old Man Winter. This was early February, and I'm pretty good at cycling. Like I said, like there's obviously somebody that's going to be better than you, but I remember most of the ride I was playing like cat and mouse or rabbit in the hare with this guy on a fat tire bike. He was putting in work, man. And like every time I'd like come to a turn, I'm like, how are you still here? And we just started talking towards the end. It was just like, oh, let's just hang out together. I'll catch a draft, give you a draft. But fat tires, I'm still learning. Like there's so many bikes, and that's a bike. It's like maybe I'll just get that and hang out in the snow with that one.
Yeah, dude.
Bike number 6 again.
Maybe that's your steady state
There you
is
go.
6. Yeah. But yeah, so we talked a little bit, actually, well, we've alluded to, there's different types of riding. There's trail, there's gravel, there's bike path, there's converted path, multi-use path, there's road, and then, sidewalk.
Yeah.
So what's your
preferred kind of area, terrain, whatever to ride? It's changed. It's changed over time. I mean, at first I was all about road when I first started riding because I wasn't too afraid of cars, which is a big thing that people are afraid of, and I'm definitely understand that. And then I got into fixed gear, which made me more like road and not even bike paths, just like kind of hooliganism, just like do what you want because people don't like you anywhere, which kind of jaded me, but also like it made me a stronger rider because I got more confidence. But I would say right now I love gravel. Like you can get a gravel bike. It's like if anybody's out there looking at a bike, even if they're looking at a base bike, gravel bike, like that'll do everything. Anything you want to do. You can do trails, you can do walking paths or shared paths. You can take it bike packing if you get the right one and put some panners on it and load it up if you want. But gravel kind of changed my mind and even started pulling me towards mountain biking, which I've kind of stayed away from because I've heard of horror stories of downhill mountain biking and crashes. But I think gravel has gotten really popular in my mind because you can just, even if you want to do road, you can do road as long as you want and say, hey, look at that, there's a double track there, or
Yep.
For people who don't know what that is, it's just like a old farm road. It's like, I'm going to take that and I want to follow that to the end of the path and just have a good time. So gravel has really grown on me, and it's the best thing, that's been invented to me, just mixing a road bike with a mountain bike. That's all it really is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
And yeah, that's very similar advice to what Stan gave me when I was thinking about buying a different bike. And the more I read about it, all the reviews said, and I ended up with a Specialized Diverge that I really like. I'll plug that. But like all the reviews said, no, this bike is great. You can just be on like basically a mountain bike trail and then come to the trailhead, get on the road and go to your house without changing anything. And it's just seamless.
Yep. So, that's if you want to just get one bike to, lead them all, there's a word, it's called a quiver killer, I think. Mm-hmm. That's your bike that you get because it can do everything. And if you don't want to buy a new bike, you just buy new tires or new wheels and you save that money. So it's the best route to go. And they're super comfortable. The geometry can be a little bit aggressive, but you can kind of frame it however you want or get new handlebars and make it less aggressive and like just a grocery getter if you want. Like it's the best kind of bike that I think you can get.
Yeah. So for folks that might be interested in getting into it, what would your progression or your recommended progression be for getting into cycling? Is it just getting a bike and getting out, or would you recommend investing in maybe a nicer bike to make it a little bit more enjoyable?
I think it's different for everybody, but I know the one thing that I would say is just get involved with the community that's near you first, or like seek that out. Because even if you think that you're going to like it or not like it, if you don't know people or know where your closest shop is, if you need that help, or usually it's going to be a cafe or a pub or a bar with the bike shop or close, or that community's there. So I would say try to do some searching on Instagram or just the internet in general and find what's your network like. But beyond that, your progression, you can get anything you want. You can get a beater bike off of Facebook, which is, I tell people all the time, if you're thinking about getting anything new, even like look at Facebook Marketplace or whatever first. I'm not plugging them, but that's just how it is. Go to there first, and see what's out there, because you can save a lot of money and even kind of make a mistake, but a learning mistake in buying, and kind of do yourself, an advantage later. But going back to it, your local bike shop, even if it's a Trek dealer or whatever's closest to you, because a lot of times you'll find somebody in that shop that'll kind of help you avoid some pitfalls, usually.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think bike shops, and I could be over talking, I think a lot of people think bike shops are like a money grab or a car dealership, but it's not. They want you to like biking or cycling so you come back. And I think we've all kind of figured that out.
Yeah, definitely.
The hardest lesson that I've ever learned, and I learned it the hard way, is that it is very important to be sized appropriately for your bike. You end up working with it rather than against it. And I was one of those early on that just looked at the price tag because, you're in school, you have a limited income, you want to jump into this. But, looking back, my bike was completely the wrong size for me. And it got me through it. But, by trying other bikes and just like you, loaner bikes, people loaning bikes out, you learn what you like and what you don't like, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Yep.
So that's a good one.
And I'll give you an anecdotal story. When I was doing fixed gear a lot, I ended up upgrading my fixed gear bike, and this was when I was getting closer to 5 bikes at home. But I had a bike, and I was like, this bike, I like it. It was cheap when I bought it, and I'm not going to ride it again because it was too big for me. So just happenstance, there was a guy that was always coming to bike rides that we hosted in St. Louis, and I was like, man, you should. Every time we're like, you should try it. Just try it. We have a bike for you. And he was taller than me, and that was perfect for the bike. So I just gave it to him one day. I was like, hey, here, really, you're going to take this bike home and just keep it, because I needed to get rid of it. But I said, you're going to take it, do whatever you want to it, go to the park and ride it, and just let me know what happens. And he kept it for like 6 months. And at first, I'd see him the next weekend. He'd show up on his road bike. I was like, hey, did you try the bike? And he's like, I'm going to get to it. And it was fine. I was like, cool, you're helping me out. Don't worry. But sooner or later, he tried it, and he liked it. And it worked out well for him, and he ended up keeping the bike. So
that's awesome.
I offloaded a bike, and he got a new bike. But that's, knowing that community or showing up to the shop or wherever, the trail net run or whatever, or the, 5K or whatever it is, you never know when you're going to see or meet somebody that's like, oh, you're thinking about biking? Here's a bike, try it out. Or I got a spare, come hang out with us,
And you're right. Cycling is a social sport. It's usually done in large groups. So you recently moved to Denver, and you said that you had to sort of, you had to level up because it was a completely different experience than compared to St. Louis. So, how was that? Like, how was it being, moving from, a place where it's popular to a location where it's almost a lifestyle?
Yeah. So, and I'll get to that, but also you have to remember, we're at elevation here. It's a whole new ballpark. I mean, we're sitting at 5,000 some odd feet above sea level, and in St. Louis, I was at 500 maybe. I mean, if I do a climb, you're at 600, 700. So, Missouri's rolling hills. Here, I'm in the foothills. It goes up from here. So that was one thing, but it was different. I mean, I kind of said that everybody here is a triathlete, multi-sport. They're running, they're climbing, they swim. It's a very active lifestyle here. So it was nice though, because you kind of fit in, and everybody's kind of humbled here also. Like, I don't want to overstate that everybody's a pro or ex-pro. Like, people are humbled because they've either been at that height where they know, like, oh, I was riding a bike that was $100 too, or they've been set in their place after being here for a while. Like, oh, you're nothing special here. Like, the KOMs don't mean anything because I can still drop you on a ride. Like, it doesn't matter. So it's a lot of humbleness, and people are just friendly. So it was tough getting in, but I think that was all me mentally. After getting here and meeting some people, it was perfectly fine, and people were welcoming. And now I'm doing that to people, saying, hey, come ride. Like, you're fine on this ride. So I hope I answered that, Kyle. I was kind of rambling there.
No, that was great.
So one thing that I've experienced moving around quite a bit is, and I don't know if you've experienced, but laws vary differently with regards to bicycles.
Yeah.
So,
what's your experience with that, Kyle? Have you seen some questionable things some places and some?
Absolutely. So just to throw this out there, because I think it's important for people that are getting into the sport, that a bicycle is a vehicle.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
And so there are certain laws that you have to abide by. Certain areas are closed off to bicycles, only foot traffic only. There's like one thing that I always check out whenever I'm looking in new areas is, what's the rule with bikes on sidewalks?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of places sidewalks are for pedestrians. Cycles are in the road. My understanding is here, Idaho's a little unique. If you're on a sidewalk on a cycle, you act as a pedestrian. If you are in a road, you act like a vehicle. So that added a layer of complexity to it. But and then there's bike paths or multi-use trails. There's sections that are devoted to foot traffic only, and then there's others that are bike only or bike and trails. So I just was wondering if you had similar experiences.
So the Midwest is, and St. Louis in general is a little. I'll just compare and contrast because these are my two.
Yeah,
I've been to other places like Chicago and Kansas City and DC to ride my bike, but St. Louis is Midwest. It's, and the city is a bigger metropolitan area. Infrastructure is not top of the top topic. There's some good trails and it's growing, and even bike lanes in the road, but in the Midwest, it's pretty much like that's a bike. It should be on the sidewalk, but the laws are, it's a vehicle. So you have every right to be in a lane, take up a lane when you want. I mean, obviously, as a cyclist, that's a law, but that's, people speed on the highway.
Exactly.
So laws aren't, written in stone and people don't respect it. So that's how it was in Missouri. I mean, it got better. And then also with your confidence of riding, some things that may seem dangerous to a new rider, to a guy that's been riding maybe 6 months or 10 years, is not the same. I mean, a car coming close to me now, I mean, I'm just like thinking like, what the heck? Then I'd be scared and I'd pull off and probably walk home. So it's a little different. But here in Boulder, and this is what I like about this, everybody here is cycled. Mostly, that's a very broad, but everybody here is cycled. And it changes your mindset. And that's why I wish everybody got on a bike one time, because it changes your mindset. The law says 3 feet sometimes or 6 feet, depending on where you are. But that's not really a lot of room. If it's windy and you're passing me, it gets gusty.
Yeah.
So, but there are laws here. Like we have a lot of open space. And there's some trails that are closed to not only bikes, but, dogs, because there's farm animals. So, you just you have to be aware of that. But in general, everywhere here, I mean, you can ride a bike everywhere. Sidewalks are really frowned upon only because there's so much infrastructure that unless you're like maybe on a Lime bike, you probably should be in the road. And even those, you should be in the road. But it changes everywhere. And I think here you just feel more comfortable being in the road. And I think that's the safest place for a bike with the right people around you. So disclaimer,
Yeah.
But also, I was going to talk about, there's a new law that just got passed here. So, and I'm sure everybody, this will be a hot topic. And if you guys had comments, I'm sure it'll get really heated here. But in Colorado, I don't know if it passed yet. I know it passed, or it's up on the Senate or something like that. But stop signs and stoplights are now optional, generally. So you can roll stop signs, and if you're at a stoplight, you can stop and keep rolling, as long as safely. So not into traffic, but So
Ooh,
that's a new.
I can see how that'll make people really mad, because that's a lot of like drivers, like people that don't bike. That's a lot of their complaints is like those bikers never stop. They just go right through, and I have to stop. Why don't they have to stop?
Yeah,
Type of
and
stuff.
I mean, we've all seen it or heard stories, maybe like a cyclist stops at a stoplight and it's nighttime and they get struck, or
Hmm.
that's the bad side, or a cyclist rolls a stop sign and gets struck. Like, who's wrong?
Hmm.
Well, it's kind of making that area a little bit more gray, because if a pedestrian's coming up to a stop sign, or you're going to stop and you should yield and let the pedestrian walk across. So it's kind of one of those, just get the person that's most endangered out of the intersection as quickly as possible. So if the car has to stop anyway, they should make hard stop and be looking. So it's kind of the cyclist point of view.
Yeah.
So sorry.
And that brings it around nicely to, there are rules. It's not a lawless, sort of activity. So, there is a bit of a learning curve, but a very, very valuable resource, taking it back, are the local cyclists and the local shops.
Yep.
Exactly. They want you to be safe and they want you to have fun, and, they provide that information. So, if you have any questions or you're interested in getting out and cycling, the best place is to start is a shop, and they can usually put you in touch with the group.
Yeah, group rides will teach you a lot. You'll learn a lot more in a group ride. Most group rides come in A, B, and C, and usually, forget the word. It's like tempo, endurance, and like intermediate. I mean, really, you can line those up either way, and you'll be like, "Well, I don't know what that means," but your A is your fast guys. Those are the guys that are they're racing in big bike races. B is like seasoned, maybe some guys that are coming up, and it's kind of like the transitional. And then C is I'm learning how to ride. I need to learn how to do hand signals or how to call out a debris on the ground. So you go to those, like we're saying, go to a bike shop, and you don't have to buy anything. Like, you can show up on your Walmart bike and that's fine. They'll let you ride, and, hopefully afterwards hang out and get a coffee or a beer with you and talk about it. So that's your best start. I mean, they'll teach you a lot more than you thinking, I'll just go on my own and start riding. But you could do that. But once you get comfortable, definitely go to a bike shop and do a group ride.
Yeah. I definitely need to do that, because I'm one of those people. I'm terrified to ride on the road. Like,
oh, Trevor, don't say that.
Well, I will say Louisiana does not have great infrastructure for that. Like, there's like no shoulder, it's ditch, and everybody drives crazy. And like, I got kids at home. I can't take that risk. So that's why I ride those maddening laps around my neighborhood. Or we do have the St. Tammany Trace, which is a rail to trail. I like going there too. But like, yeah, man, big trucks and me on a bike, that just, I don't know. My brain can't wrap around that risk. And I guess if I was riding in a group, it would be better, because I do know people at work that they ride in their groups and they do longer bike rides on the roads. But like, yeah, I don't know. I need to go on a group ride to really get more comfortable, I think.
And Trevor, they'll show you the routes to take. Like, obviously maybe the roads closest to you probably aren't the best places, but then they'll show you, not there. Yeah. They'll show you, oh, this is a wider road with a big shoulder, and it's usually clean. So they'll know the hot routes, and
That's another good point. Whenever it comes to cycling, do not trust Google Maps. It will incorporate bike paths, and it does the shortest route usually, or the least amount of elevation, but it is 100% not the safest route to take. In order to identify that, you have to learn from the locals.
Yep.
And
I will say Google's a good way to like think about it, but you need to know, like, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a lot of major cities, and I think Boulder is one of them. Atlanta was working on this as well. They actually they're developing cycling specific platforms where they map out the trails, the conditions, and you can actually in real time, update conditions. You can report, like, hey, this is blocked off because of a special event or something like that. So there's a lot of resources out, and again, I found this out through the local bike shop. It was like, dude, you don't want to die. Here you go. Here's how not to die. So,
And I will say, being open to talking to people on the road too. Here it snows sometimes, and it's a great place because once it's even in the wintertime, it'll be 32 at night. Maybe below freezing. During the day, it'll get up to 60, but it might snow one day. And if you're not familiar with how the mountains affect roads and snow, north-facing roads will still be covered in snow. So you'll be like, oh, well, it's been nice the last 4 days. Snow should be melted. A guy coming the other way might say, hey, like, stop. There's ice up there. You don't want to go that way. And most cyclists will tell you. They don't want you going down or something like that. They might know you or see you later. So, yeah, definitely be open to having conversations also, because word of mouth is great. They might tell you, yeah, they just closed the road up there before your phone pings you to tell you, the nearest highway is closed. So, yeah, just to piggyback off of that.
No, that's really great.
All right. Trev, you want to ask a couple questions?
Sure, yeah.
So I can stop berating him.
Yeah, no. This has been really good. I've just been letting you guys roll.
I was going to ask Trevor, why is he afraid to ride on the road? But we found
mostly big guys and big trucks, and they're idiots.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't
and
trust
it's the South.
Yeah, it's the South. It's not a real, like, outside of like Atlanta. I think Atlanta has like that biking culture. Here, if you're outside of like riding on the trace, it's really not that many people ride on the roads. It's a small group of people. Everybody just kind of goes to the trace because they know it's safe. It's like 30 some miles, 30, I think 31, 35 miles one way. So it's like, people are like, well, you can just ride on that. You don't need to be on the road, which I don't think is very fair, but
no,
that's just kind of how it is down here.
And like we said, the two things, like, you're still a vehicle, and I wish more people would ride a bike, because if they experienced, even on a wide shoulder, I mean, we've had, semis go, it's country roads. Like, you're going to have big trucks go by you. And the trucks, I think, are the most kind, the big trucks, because they kind of know, they've been around the country. They kind of know where they are. And but
and
putting somebody on a bike, go ahead.
Go ahead. They understand the size of their vehicle.
Yes.
They know, like, truck drivers, they're really good drivers. It's their job. They know exactly how big their vehicle, and they're paying attention all the time. I'm more worried about the person that bought this big SUV because they think they need a big SUV and they can't park it in a parking spot, much less drive it down a road and not come close to hitting other cars, much less somebody on a bike.
Oh, and then they're texting also. So
yeah, that too.
But so yeah, I think getting people on bikes to let them know, like, not to put them in dangerous situations, but to say, yeah, that's what a regular car feels like on a road with a bike lane. Now imagine being on a county road or a gravel road. You're passing somebody and throwing up dust in their face. It's just different.
Yeah, maybe slow down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, so, like, one of the things we kind of are trying to do with this podcast is try to make these sports, like, more accessible to everybody. So I know, like, cycling, if you watch like cycling on TV, it's a bunch of white dudes, mostly Europeans. And I think that isn't what the reality is. I think a lot more people get into cycling, but if they see what the stereotype, it's just like these white dudes out there in their spandex, like, biking really fast, taking corners crazy fast. But so how do you think we can get more people that don't fit that stereotype into cycling?
Well, I mean, I think we're seeing it a little bit. It's got to trickle in a little bit, over time. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The biggest thing for me, I started in basketball shorts and a t-shirt. Man, it's the Lycra.
Yeah,
that's not cool. That's not cool.
No,
it's not cool until it's not cool until you get into it and you realize the benefits. Even if you want to wear shorts over it, but I think it's just a cultural thing. I mean, really, like, it's similar to other sports. I mean, you have golf and tennis and swimming. I mean, it's just a lot of sports that you're not. There's a pay wall, so to speak, to get in. I mean, we talk about, it's easy to go get a bike and stuff like that, but we see it in other sports too. I mean, nobody's got time to pay for tennis or money and time to pay for tennis lessons or golf, lessons. It's a paywall. And, hopefully with there's a lot of growing support nowadays after the last couple of years of a lot of tension where it's like, what can we do to get more people into this sport that don't look like
Yeah.
everybody else?
Yeah.
And I've seen that personally. I mean, I've seen a lot of my friends that, people of color that like stuck around and are staying in because they feel more comfortable now.
That's awesome.
And awareness is just one. I mean, we're talking about now awareness, knowing that it's not the same to be in a sport, if you don't look like everybody else or go through the same things. Trevor, I know you probably didn't think about this, but we're in a fraternity where it's just not,
No.
it's just, everybody's different,
Like,
but it's a culture that you have to break into. And once you're there, it's like, oh, okay, well, everybody, and not saying anybody had any type of animosity or anything before, but you're just not used to it. So, seeing different people around you and seeing them on Instagram and stuff like that, where the younger people see it, and say, oh, cycling's cool. Like they're going fast, man. Like, like they are moving. Like that'd be cool to do, like stuff like that. And I think that's one of the biggest things beyond having to pay to buy a bike. But I think we're, once people start idealizing cycling or even hiking or anything like that, a little bit more over, the typical sports of baseball, football, basketball,
your televised sports.
Yeah. So, and we're getting to that too. I mean, you're seeing a lot more coverage of sports that are on the fringe, So, but
you mentioned Instagram and and I put this in our show notes, so I'll mention it now. But a really good group to follow on Instagram is Legion of LA.
Dude,
They're
the guys
awesome,
at Legion, man. The Williams brothers, man, like that was a big push too. Like I had their kit in the other room, and I'm an adult, like I'm 30 years old, and I get hyped up about these other 30-year-olds like out there crushing it, man. If you guys, if the people who listen to this podcast don't know who Legion of LA are, just go to their Instagram.
And I'll put it in the show notes so you can look it up. But they're awesome. They really promote like diversity and inclusion, and on top of that, they win. They just crush.
And they're also bringing in the culture. I mean, like these guys, they're being the loud people. Their Instagram pictures and videos aren't like the pristine, like, oh, he's going up the course. Like it's like no, it's like loud music, rap. It's like gold chains, bling. They got in trouble kind of by social media for they rented a Lamborghini for their last year's like kit drop, which is your kit is like the clothes you wear for some people. And then this year they one-upped it by getting a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. Like, so there's like, they're just disturbing. And that's like I'm smiling ear to ear right now because this is like the cool thing. Like this is cool factor.
Yeah.
Before it's like, oh, I don't know how much that bike costs, but these guys are going around in, skin tight clothing. That doesn't look cool to me. But when you see somebody in a cool kit that isn't your all white or all black kit, it's got some cool flair to it. They've got gold, like, gold necklaces, and their bike computer has a gold, head unit. Like this is the cool stuff. Like I'm over here getting pumped up because I think about these guys. So, you see people like that. There's another guy, he races for Bahati. Now I'll butcher this, but I'll probably give it to Trevor to plug also.
Yeah.
But
we can
also
put it in
another,
for sure.
Person of color that's out here just like killing it, So, sorry, got a little excited there.
No, that's great. Excitement's awesome, man. But that's we need more people like that kind of show that no, this isn't just a bunch of like weird white dudes in spandex that are taking up the road and making people drive around them. Yeah. So it's definitely needed, and it's really cool to see that type of thing.
Yeah, and I mean another thing, also with women, like Legion decided they're just gonna have a team. Like this is their team. Like they have women and men, all diversity, like it's all inclusive together. Like they do everything together. There's no separation. They're like, we're gonna ride. Obviously in the bike races they have to because that's how you rank yourself. But I think it's just a great thing to have nowadays. It's just there's this catalyst lately that's just changing everything, and I think it's great. Like, man, if I was young, like 20 years from now, I'd love it.
So you mentioned that you and some of your friends like maybe weren't as comfortable getting into biking when you were maybe one or two of the only person of color that were
Mhm.
doing that. But aside from just like the being the person that like sticks out, or did you have any other challenges? It sounds like all the people
Yeah,
you've
so
been around with have been really welcoming and open, but
I mean, but that's always the case. So going back to St. Louis, there's areas in St. Louis that like you just certain people aren't welcome, and I'm dancing around this. You can read between the lines.
I get what you're saying.
Going in some neighborhoods, you're like, what are you doing here? The typical like. So it helped to be in a group where you might be the only black person there, but you're in a group of people, so you kind of get a pass, and that kind of sucks. That happens here, and it's funny. Like I'm a grown adult. There's still times where I'm like, I'm not going there on my own, just because you never know. So I mean that does keep. I mean, that probably keeps a little bit of a grasp about where do you ride your bike. I mean, if I'm alone with myself on some roads, like I don't know if a guy hits me, is he gonna pull over or is he not? You know, and it's not just because I'm a cyclist. You know, I mean, I'm wearing short shorts and a bib, like they can see me. You know, they know what I look like. So I mean, it's a little off-putting, but sometimes you got to power through because if I don't, then the next guy or some teenager that sees me in his mom's car as they're passing, you know, he might. I'm not that special, but you know, he might see
to him
me.
You could be.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I don't want to frame this as like me being like I'm B-level rider, guys. Like, but you know, some kid on the side, you know, might see me and doesn't have to be black, could be Hispanic or whatever, Latina, what doesn't matter. But they see somebody of color, like, oh, he's doing it. That looks really cool. Then
It's
that'd
all
be
about
like,
perspective too. You might be the only person of color that this person's ever seen. Like in a full kit.
Yeah.
Going, wow, that's awesome.
He's moving with the rest of them. Like that's
good.
But I mean, but there's some dangers. I mean, you know, there's an added layer when you're a person of color riding a bike. I don't like to hamper on it myself because it's just not the best thing to think about, but you can't ignore it sometimes.
Yeah, it's real. It's a real thing.
It's real. So there's things like, and my fiance gets worried all the time because, you know, there's always stuff in the news. A couple of years ago, you know, a guy, you know, passed away or was killed because he was running in the wrong neighborhood. So it's like she always worries. She's like, we share my location to her. My Wahoo computer shares. My phone shares locations. She checks in like if it's because you get flats on bikes, guys. I don't know if you know that, but she'll see. Sometimes she'll check in and she'll be like, it'll be just happenstance. She'll like, you haven't moved in the last 30 minutes. What's going on? And I'm like, oh, we got a flat. And like, I'm out of breath. like I'm, you know, physically dying here. And she's like, what's going on? Are you okay? Like she starts calling. It's like, I got a flat tire, or we stopped at a beer at this place. Sorry, I didn't tell you that we're going to do this route. We stopped. And so, you know, it also wreaks havoc a little bit on your family members, but there's safeguards there now. But it does get a little scary sometimes. You just don't put yourself in positions, and it's kind of, you got to learn the hard way sometimes, you know, of how to ride, you know, to be safe.
Yeah. And I think in just general, like sharing your location is a great idea.
Oh,
if you're going on, especially if you're going on a longer ride, you're just not going down to the store or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's a great thing to do. Like, and now like Garmin watches and stuff, they have like the accident detection too. So if the accelerometer in that watch detects like you stopped really quick, it's going to give you maybe a couple minutes to respond, or it's going to call 911 and send somebody to your location. So it's another good safeguard to have. Yeah.
Technology. And I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't in this day and age. If you have the ability, share your location with somebody. I mean, I do it with my mom and my fiance for sure. Some days it's sharing with a friend for a day or the weekend. But it's just, it's free. It's there. Like if you have a device, there's some way to share your location. That's for everybody. I mean,
yeah.
But That's just one easy thing that you could do to ensure your safety a little bit more. But yeah.
No, that was great. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Stan.
No, yeah.
So, Kyle, do you have any more questions before I do my normal question?
No, I don't think so. The only thing that I was gonna say or ask is, you know, the after I got into cycling, the biggest hurdle that I had to face was what clipless pedals actually meant, because it is the
You mean the terminology's wrong?
Yeah, the most counterintuitive, because I was like, yeah, I want the clips. I want the clips, and the guy's like, you don't want clips, you want clipless. And I was like, no, I want to clip into the pedal. He's like, no, you want clipless. That is clipless.
So this is funny. So this is like, I looked into this once and I found an answer, and it's like one of those things like you Google search for 30 minutes and you find it, and you're like, okay.
Yes, I was hoping that was going to be the case.
So it's a terminology, like, so clipless, and I might just send you guys to Google after this to make sure I'm not wrong. But it's
so start from base level, because I know I barely understand this.
I can make
know
it
there
through
are people that
So we know flat pedals, like that's what you get when you get a Walmart bike. You got your flat pedals, and then there's strapped pedals, which has like a Velcro or leather, sometimes a cage that goes over your foot. Mm-hmm. You use those on fixed gear
exercise bikes, like at the gym have those.
Yeah. Some of these are a little bit more robust than those, but yes.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think. There's no other levels really. Then you have your clipless pedals, and this is the part that I'm going to butcher. I know that I ride clipless. I have 3 types of clipless: egg beaters, which people are going to be like, "What the hell?" or "What the heck are you talking about?" I have SPD mountain bike pedals, and then SPD pedals, which are on my road bike. So the terminology, these are clipless pedals, which doesn't make sense because you think like, well, you clip in, they have a clip. But I think it has something to do with old technology and you literally physically being clipped into the bike and not being able to get out. I just butchered that and I just lost all credibility. But yeah, it is backwards, because you'd think like, oh, well, those are clipped in pedals. I want clipped pedals, but it's clipless. It's very weird. I don't know. I don't know if I ever know.
And I can edit it to make it sound pretty.
Yeah, thank you. Please. Let me Google it really quick. Sorry.
No, that was good.
No matter what type of clipless pedals you have, you're going to fall at least once. So be prepared for that.
And it is going to be in the most inconvenient spot possible. Like when you're in the bike lane at a stoplight where there's a cute girl or a vehicle full of cute girls, and you come riding up and you look over and you realize what's going on. You try to unclip, but nope, you're just going over, and you got to commit.
Yep. Ending a group ride, being like right in front of the bike shop or the coffee shop where everybody's looking at you, asking like, how'd you do? And you're like, whee, poof.
Great until now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I asked this question of everybody, and you can kind of take this however you want. And this is to kind of keep us all modest. What is your biggest mistake in the outdoors? It could be on bikes. It could be on whatever you want.
My biggest mistake in the outdoors. I got two.
Okay.
So I don't know I guess I'm not good with my vocab. But
no, you can do 2. That's fine.
So most people don't know me, but I'm tall. I'm 6 foot or 5'11", but like 148 pounds. So I'm a pretty skinny guy. One thing that I learned very early on, and this is words of wisdom for anybody that goes into cycling: you dress for the end of the ride. No matter how cold or how warm it is at the beginning, you dress for the end of the ride. And I've screwed this up throughout my cycling, thinking I'm better. So usually what happens is I go out for a ride and it starts at 5 or 6 in the evening, but it's going to get dark. So I've gone out in my little, bib, maybe a vest, and think I'm going to be good, look cool. and I turn into a popsicle by the end of the ride because the sun goes down and I'm freezing. So that's my biggest thing. That's probably my biggest mistake. The other one is just not listening to people. People tell you, and that kind of piggybacks off of that. Just listen to people. They're not trying to hurt you. So
take advice.
Take advice. You can cross-check that advice, but open your ears because people will tell you, what you needed to hear. So
I've gotten better at that in recent years, but I used to be really stubborn. I was like, yeah, they don't know what they're they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
A guy, so Boulder has some climbs just west of here because the mountains are there. And a guy on a group ride told me, go at your own pace. Go at your own pace. And that anything competitive or semi-competitive, that never works out. And man, I went hard. I was like going and on this guy's wheel the whole time. The whole time for me was like 20 minutes, and I died. And I had to give up and come back down the mountain. And it's like if I would just went at my own pace, and people are gonna wait for you at the top. If I would just went at my own pace, took my time, probably could have made it. But instead, I just went all out trying to keep up with the group, and I cracked. I bonked. I killed myself. So sorry. It's listen. Just listen to people.
No, that's really good advice. And it sounds like no one in that group would have thought less of you.
Oh no,
for having to wait either.
No.
Yeah, because they want everybody to succeed too, right?
Exactly.
No, but this has been really good. So, yeah, do you have any resources for anybody that wants to get into biking or cycling, I should say? That good place for them to go check it out?
Yeah. So depends on where you live, and it's always different. But like we said, your local bike shop. But man, I gotta plug the 3 kind of groups or people that kept me in cycling and supported me over the years. One's 314 Fixed. Those are my fixed gear guys, man. These are my OGs. Like these are the guys that hung with me through COVID, and we would go out. Like these are the guys I would call, be like, hey man, I need to get outside. Like I don't care what we do, we can roll around the park or go grab a smoothie or something like that. Whatever from whatever coffee. Just like I just need to be outside. I'm going crazy. So 314 Fixed. Those are my buddies back in St. Louis. Also, my buddy Chris Green at Road Crew back in St. Louis is the guy that got me into road biking and got me into doing a criterium, which is a crit race. That shop, like they've helped everybody. Good coffee shop in St. Louis. And then my home away from home here and then in Boulder, Full Cycle Boulder. Those are my go-tos. If you start there and follow one of them, like no matter what you're into, they'll share something that you might like or connect you to somebody or have a group ride, shop ride that you like. And then we've already talked about Legion. Like if you want some inspiration,
follow them. They're awesome.
That'll get you pumped up no matter what you're doing. You could be a runner. You're like, I want to go outside. Yeah.
Oh, but that's great. But so if people want to follow you and look at all your sweet bike pictures, how do they do that?
So if you want to follow me, it's Stanley DeManley. It's STANLEY DAMANLEY. So it's misspelled, but it kind of rhymes with each other.
But yeah, it's been great having you, Stan. And if you want to follow the rest of us,
it.
Yeah. And if you want to follow the rest of us, my Instagram is Trevor Bowman. Kyle still doesn't have Instagram. And as per usual, if you just keep waving at guys named Kyle in Boise, you'll eventually find them. There's only a certain amount of them. If you want to email us and tell us that we're doing great, or you have any constructive criticism, you can email us at adventuringformeremortals@gmail.com. Our Instagram is @meremortalpod, and we have a Discord, which Stan has joined. Thank you, Stan. That all the details for that will be in the show notes. And rate and write us a review on your podcast platform of choice. I checked earlier; we don't have any reviews yet. We have a couple ratings, but remember, if you give us a 5-star review, I will read it on the podcast. I might have to censor it if you get vulgar, but I will read it. But yeah, Stan, thanks for coming on. This has been great, man.
Oh, thank you. And I think you're opening yourself up for some crazy reviews there.
Yeah. Oh no, it's going to be great. I'm excited.
No, but thanks for having me. I mean, this is a joy. I mean, I like sharing what I like to do. So thanks.
Man, I really think you gave a lot of great information that people can really get pumped up and go out there and check it out. But yeah, I guess till next month, everybody. We'll see you all down the road.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.